Hi, and welcome to the Gritty Nurse Podcast, an unfiltered discussion related to health and healthcare. My name is Amy.
And my name is Sarah.
And we are your podcast hosts. So just remember, we have our Gritty Nurse apparel line. You can find us at www.grittynurse.com. Please join the conversation, make a statement, and go to our website.
And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or any other podcast listening platform, be sure to hit subscribe so you can get updates to when we release episodes. Also, be sure to rate and review us. You can also find us on Patreon. We are at Patreon at the Gritty Nurse Podcast. We just wanted to let you know that any donation you make, however big or small, is going towards supporting our monthly podcast costs, which include podcast hosting, our website, audio equipment that we use, and also the time and energy it takes us to research and put out good quality episodes for you guys.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. No, I won't sing because my singing is really horrid. And I don't want to scare our listeners away.
This will be a really fun episode. This is literally the first time I've ever heard you sing, Amy. This is the first
that
time.
Was really bad.
This will also be the first time that I'm going to be drinking while podcasting, and I think it's very appropriate given the topic. So,
yes,
bottoms up.
And a great topic it is because you know what, this time of year, for some people it's really, really great. For some people, it's really, really poor. But this year's been crazy. So let's try to, lift people's spirits. We do talk about a lot of heavy, serious topics. And it's not that we don't want to talk about them today. It's just that today we want to do something a little bit light, a little bit festive, and talk about dun, dun, dun.
Holiday parties.
Holiday healthcare parties. Do. Oh my gosh. Okay, before we actually get into this episode, Sarah, what is your favorite holiday, Christmas, festive type of song?
Oh man, that is you're really putting me on the spot. So the first song that comes to mind, Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas.
Right, I've heard that about 1,000 times already.
Number 2, Little Drummer Boy. Just because I used to play piano. Yes, I was that stereotypical Asian kid. I played piano. I love the Little Drummer Boy. Number 3 is the 12 Days of Christmas.
The 12 Days of Christmas. Okay. So yeah, number 1, I guess Mariah Carey has the quintessential Christmas song, All I Want for Christmas.
She's the front runner.
Honestly, like I tell you, my daughter every night she's like, "Mom, can you play All I Want for Christmas?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, not again."
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need.
Okay, yeah. So that is number 1, and then of course, I have anything by Boney M, and I think that's really lame. That's like my West Indian background. I don't even think they're West Indian. I think
I'm so embarrassed that I don't even know who this person is.
They sing Christmas carols, but with like a West Indian vibe.
Oh, awesome! Do they only do Christmas carols, or do they do other stuff?
Honestly, the only reason I know Boney M is from Boney M Christmas. So I'll have to send you some songs through Spotify.
Okay.
And then Wham. So I love George Michael's. Last Christmas is like my other song. You know that song, what I'm talking about. Last Christmas, I gave you my heart.
Yes. Okay, while we're on this theme, why don't we talk about our top 3 favorite Christmas movies?
Oh, number 1 would be, oh my gosh, I know this is really lame. It's very new, but it's called The Christmas Chronicles. So there's a part 2, but it's a part 1 with Kurt Russell, and he makes one of the hottest Santas that I have ever seen. So
you have a thing for Kurt Russell? Oh my god, Amy.
Okay, but as Santa Claus, but that's really weird. It's really creepy. Oh my gosh. Now I just sound like a really messed up human being. But you know what? I'm gonna own it.
Kurt Russell is like 50, right?
No, I think he's older. Hold on, now I gotta Google it.
60.
Oh yeah, it's okay. He could buy me gifts because he's Santa. Well, anyways, he's older. I just liked him in that movie. I thought it was really cute.
He's 69. No way.
He's a hot 69-year-old. What can I say? Jeez, don't judge me.
Okay.
So that one, oh my gosh, is it Love Actually? I think that's a Christmas one too.
Sure is.
Oh, So there's controversy of whether this movie is a Christmas movie or not, but I'm saying it's a Christmas movie because it takes place at a Christmas party. Die Hard.
Which one?
Die Hard 1. He was like the best bad guy ever.
Okay.
All right, what are your
I'll give you that.
Yeah, he was so evil. And then he played Professor Snape, so super awesome.
Okay, so my number one is Love Actually.
Oh.
I love it. It's like I watch it every year. Actually, I haven't watched it yet this year, but it's on my top 5 to watch. And then number 2, okay, I have to give it to Home Alone because
Oh,
I grew up
yeah,
on that
okay, yeah.
movie.
I've
The
seen that
first
one.
one. The first
Yes,
one.
yes, yes.
I love it. And then number 3, I would say, have you ever seen Four Christmases with Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn?
I might have, but honestly, I've seen so many Christmas movies, and then they're kind of blending in with some of the W movies that I've seen, like the W channel, the Women's Network, or whatever, that my
Mhm.
mom would force me to watch. So, but yeah, I probably
I
have
like
seen it.
it's funny because they're like they hate Christmas and every year they go away on purpose, but they both have parents that have split up, so they essentially have 4 families that they have to visit. It's really funny. Anyway, I like it.
Okay, you know what? Maybe I'll have to go back and watch it. See, 3 is not enough because like there's the Nightmare Before Christmas, which you could say is either Christmas or Halloween. There's Black Christmas, but that's a horror movie and it's really bad. You know what? Don't get mad at me for saying that. The Grinch, not the Grinch with Jim Carrey.
Jim
That
Carrey.
movie is super scary. Like, have you seen all those little memes where like people are taking their kids to take pictures and then the Grinch comes out behind them
Yeah.
running and screaming?
Someone tagged me in a post and I would actually do that to my kids, but I
You're a
can't do that
horrible
this year.
human being.
I would do that to them. I'm the kind of person that I want to pull that Jimmy Kimmel prank on my kids for Halloween every year, which is the one where like you're supposed to say that you ate all their Halloween candy or it's gone, and then videotape them as they melt down. And my kids are not very good at that. They're like, "Oh, it's gone? Okay." I'm like, "No, you're supposed to be upset. Be upset."
Be mad,
But it's like,
children.
be madder. Like, fall down on the ground and throw stuff at me, and they don't do it. I feel like the Grinch, it would kind of traumatize them. We'd have to get the picture at the exact right moment.
Well, it didn't seem to matter. Like all those kids were running and screaming, and honest to God, I would probably turn around and like double lugged double lug the Grinch and like put him in like an arm bar because like I was just like, no, that is the scariest thing I've ever seen. But in terms of the Grinch movie that we have been watching, it's the cartoon one, not the older version, but the newer one. So it's kind of cute. I liked it.
And I kind of also lump Harry Potter and all of the Lord of the Rings series into Christmas, only because they always came out around the holidays.
Okay. I was gonna say no, those aren't really
They're not
holiday
really
movies.
Christmassy, but
All right. So, healthcare holiday parties. Oh my gosh. A wild, wild topic. Because you know what? You would think that maybe in healthcare, like we're all professionals. We hold highly respected titles. But honestly, everyone that I've ever been to has been like a girls gone wild party.
and I think it's more of the mentality where like you work hard and you play hard, right? Because
Yeah.
when you're at work, you're so like dressed down, like you don't have makeup on, you don't do your hair, you don't have the opportunity to dress up, and it's like when you don't have the opportunity, you just find any chance you can to like let loose and go wild. And maybe that's what it is, but also I think certain people in healthcare just like to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we know who those people are.
Yeah, like I have to be honest. I was never that big of a partier to be able to stick it out. I love sitting back and watching and being like, this is a train wreck. I need to leave before this gets way worse than it actually is. But just yeah, they just let loose.
And it's like being in healthcare, you always have to work at least part of the holidays, right? It's what you signed up for. So when you actually get that Christmas stretch off, it's like hallelujah. Or you get that New Year's off that you wanted, then it's like party, party, party. Of course, this year's a bit different. So I
Yeah.
guess one of the reasons we wanted to do this episode is just to really relive the good old days
Yeah.
when we could get together and have drinks and not have to socially distance and not do things over Zoom or virtual.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough year. Like I mean, I think for the most part Christmas is like a time that people want to get together. And if you're already lonely, I think this Christmas might be even more difficult. So everyone's in it. Like, it's tough. Let's relive what we used to see. And, if someone's having a bad day, listen to our episode and hopefully that'll turn some things around and maybe it'll bring back some memories when you used to have some really good fun at Christmas parties.
Or if you're a nursing student or a new nurse, this is something that you can look forward to after things sort of die down a little bit and quote unquote get back to normal.
Yeah, I have to be honest. So here's my take. Would I ever go back to another healthcare Christmas party? I might go for the first 2 hours because everyone's relatively still sober. But I think I know when it's time for me to leave. But anyways, let's get into it. Do you want to go with your story first, or do you want me to go with my story first?
Let me go with my story because I think yours is a little bit more entertaining. So let's
Okay.
start with my very first Christmas party when I first graduated and I was a new nurse. So I was working at a hospital where there were two different lines. So essentially there was the one line, so they would do the traditional twos and threes, right?
Right, right.
And then there was the mirror opposing line that worked the opposite shifts. So I get to this new unit. It's September. So about 2 months in, there's talk about Christmas parties and like what date are we going to pick and what's going to happen. And there was a social committee at the time. So they were, of course, going to pick a day that worked for them. And there were all these like angry emails flying back and forth. So essentially, what happened was the social committee had picked a day that worked for them, but of course everybody started complaining that was on the other line. And you know how they say the squeaky wheel gets the attention, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess enough loud people from the other line were complaining that they couldn't go, enough that they had to actually change the date. And this was after people had started paying for their tickets, right? So it became this whole big kerfuffle, like we're going to change the date now. And then of course the other line's mad, and there's like, you know, there's complaining in the break room, there's angry emails flying around, there's like just general unhappiness on the unit. And I think so because I went straight to my master's from undergrad, right? I was working casual, so I could basically pick and choose what I wanted. So of course I was able to go. And then when I got there, I guess me being a new nurse, it was like a little bit interesting to see people outside of their element, like not in their scrubs, not at work. And I was seated at a table that was right next to my manager and the educator. And back then I was like, oh no, I need to be on my best behavior. I can't let them see me get sloppy. I can't say anything wrong. I gotta watch what I'm saying. And it was fine. Like we just got on the dance floor and, danced the night away. It was fine. But I think it was more like I just wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't know how to conduct myself in front of people that I thought I needed to impress at the time.
Right, right.
Um, there was a couple doctors there, nothing crazy. It was like one of those Brazilian meat houses, where they like
Yes,
slice
yes.
off the meat and then you get the meat sweats because all you eat is meat all night, and then you're like drinking and dancing. It was crazy, but I don't have any crazy sort of uh dramatic stories to tell. Just that there was all the drama leading up to it about picking the date and the back and forth. And honestly, like, let's face it, we're in healthcare. No matter what date you pick, there's always going to be
Someone's
someone
gonna,
that
yeah.
can't go. We have to accept that fact. There is
Yep.
no way around it, right? So let's say it was this line one year. Maybe we pick it on the other line schedule for next year so that they can go. That's just the way it is. And I think that drama
Yeah.
will continue no matter what. And of course, I think
No,
the
I hear
other
you.
drama is so I don't know about you, Amy, but every year different physicians would drop off different gift baskets to us, and we would always compare like who gave the best basket to us. Was it the tangerines? Was it the chocolate? Was it that like little fruit arrangement that someone gave? Or like I guess like back in the day, the doctors would pool together money to get the unit a nice gift. So one
Right.
year, for example, it was like a new large screen TV.
What?
Yeah, it was. That's nice, right?
That is super nice.
And then another time when I was working in the clinic, there was a doctor who got us like really nice brand name hand cream. So you know that brand L'Occitane? It's like a French brand. It's really nice hand cream. And so she introduced me to this hand cream, which I love to this day. So So that's probably the extent of my holiday parties. I need to hear this one. I got nothing. Like what you're gonna tell though, I was not part of it, but I heard bits and pieces. So I'm really, really excited to hear the full unedited version from Amy.
Well, literally, Sarah, you missed it by like, what was it, like a week, 2 weeks? Because like I think you started like just after. I'm not one of those, I'll be honest, I'm not the first person to sign myself up to go to these parties. Like, I would rather be at home chilling with my family, whatever the case may be, right? Or like doing something myself. So for example, I've done muffin exchanges or so let's like back it up. So essentially I was voluntold to go to this party because they're like, "Oh, leadership should be at these parties." I don't know why.
Why? Shouldn't it be the opposite? Like you shouldn't be at these parties?
I tell you, like I had every intention not to go. Some of the nurses were like, "Amy, you just go. Like, there's free food. There, like the booze will be flowing." I'm like, "Oh, the booze, yeah, yeah, yeah." I'm like, "Oh yeah," because that's my jam, right?
But just back up a second. I think I started like maybe 2 weeks before this because I remember all of what you're saying.
Well, I think they had asked you to go, and you're like, "No, I have
But
things to
I
do." I was
think I
like, "Damn you,
remember like
Sarah."
the day of the party up until 5 p.m. you were telling me that you weren't going to go. And then I find out the next day that you went and then all the drama that unfolded, which I'll let you tell, but you were not going to go. I remember that.
Peer pressure. So essentially, like I said, I was pretty much voluntold and like, we should show our appreciation because, the physicians typically host it. They pool, like you said, like they pooled their money together. They rented party rooms at like like a hotel. Oh my god. It already sounds so friggin' bad. So essentially, I was voluntold to go and I was like, I'm not going, I'm rebelling. And then it was just like, oh, now I'm being made to feel like it's an obligation that I like show my face, right? But there's a couple of the nurses that were going. I was like, yeah, I love these girls. I respect them. I'm gonna go. I'll just go for like an hour and then I'm gonna blow, right? So I get there, managers there, directors there. I'm in leadership too, so I had to show my face. And already I could tell like the lights were low, music was pumping like super loud. And I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, it's like 8:05. And people are like, you would have thought I walked into a rave. Like they had the lights going. It was like, duh, 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 duh. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
So like was this at a restaurant or where was it?
So this was at like a nice hotel. And I guess you know how they have like banquet rooms. They rented like a
Yeah.
banquet room. So there were
Oh,
tables all
oh
set
wow,
up.
this is
There
fancy.
was so much food and it just like kept coming. It was intense. I think there were alcohol tickets. I think you could kind of like,
Buy your drinks.
the other thing is because it was at a hotel, some nurses and physicians got rooms, which I found a little bit bizarre.
Yeah, separate rooms that people got on their own.
They got like a hotel room and I'm kind of like in my mind I'm like, "What? What do you mean people booked hotel rooms? Like just take an Uber home." Not these party people. And I was just like, okay. So first thing I got there, lights were already low, music was pumping, people were eating, dancing. I was like, oh, this is like pretty bizarre. And then the other thing is, I didn't recognize like half of the nursing staff. I was just like, who? Oh my god, that's you. And it's just like, of course, like out of your scrubs, you're in your blues or your greens, you can never tell like what someone looks like. And then you doll them up and they're like a whole different person. Like we should fully do those transformations where we're in our scrubs and then we like sit down and like boom, we're in our like sexy dresses or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, so I get there, the director's there, the manager's there, like, oh, we're gonna just stay for half an hour and then we're gonna leave. And I'm like, okay.
Famous
And I'm like,
last
yeah, I'm
words.
gonna do the same. And then, the slow trickle of physicians, more nurses coming in. Some people are leaving early, but the ones that were married, they kind of came. They had a couple drinks. I was introduced to some of their spouses, but then they were gone, right? Like 8:30 hit, sun's going down, they're out of there, right?
8:30. Come on. What is that? They left at 8:30?
I don't know. Like I wanted to say
Well, they probably had like a full day of office appointments and then they came afterwards. So yeah, they're tired. They had a full day.
so, some of them kind of came and then you got the like later stragglers, but then it got to a point where like I was starting to converse with some of the nurses, and they're like, "Oh, Amy, have a drink." I'm like, "Okay." So I had, oh my god, I got like a rum and coke because they were serving like only hard liquor, like really
Okay.
hard liquor. And I watched this woman pour my rum and coke. It was like half rum and like a
Nice.
drop of coke. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? I was like sipping on this drink that's like burning the back of my throat. I'm just like, now that I've had a drink, I need to wait an hour. So like I have one drink, I'm like laughing and you know, wild things are happening. So I'm just like, okay, I need to stay for at least another hour. And then the director and manager's like, "Oh yeah, we're going bye." I'm like, "Oh no, you're leaving me here." They were gone, and I was just like, "Oh crap." And that's when like the party turned up. The music got louder. Tell me how. Like all of a sudden, like it's like they left and there was like party. So and then like the music got louder. The lights got even more dim. I was like, "What's happening?" But you know what? Whatever. It's Christmas party. Do you remember your clubbing days? Like when you would go downtown
I sure
and it
do.
was
I sure
cold
do.
AF and you'd be standing outside the club in like your high heels and your like mini skirt. Well, that was the same thing, but at this party, right? So I was just like, okay, sure, whatever.
So when you say that like the club wear came out, is it like people changed or people just came into this party really late with the
People were
club wear
coming
on?
later, and these were like the hotel people, like the people that were probably pre-drinking, because this one lady came down and like, oh, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was like an inflatable like Halloween costume, but she was drunk AF, and she's like dancing on the floor, and I'm just like, I just didn't even know what to
Oh my
say. And then I'm just like, what? I'm just, sitting back. I'm watching these interactions. I'm like, wow, this is like really weird, like this one doctor where people were like, oh, she's so callous. She was like, not like that at all. So I guess like the alcohol turned her out. I don't know. She was just like a completely different person. But then it got to the point where I was like, okay, so, I'm just going to like, I started helping DJing, and I guess this was the alcoholism. So I like went over. I was like,
You helped DJ? You didn't tell me this.
so I went over because they were playing some like music that people weren't dancing to. I'm like, come on, let's hype up this party. So I went. I was like helping picking songs, and then they're like, "Hey, let's dance!" And I fully was like out. I was like jumping around. I'm dancing. I'm like, this alcohol is taking me to like new heights, right? So I'm dancing around, I'm having a good time, and then this one doctor comes in, and he's dancing hard on the floor, like, "Oh, Sarah," you know who I'm talking about, right?
I know who you're talking about. I have a visual right now, except I can only picture him in his scrubs.
Effed up, like, he must have, I think within the hour, I saw him probably hammer back, like, 6 or 7 drinks. So he was, like he was effed. So he came out, like, hard and heavy on the dance floor.
Can you just paint a visual picture for me? Like, what is he wearing? Because in my mind, he's still wearing those green scrubs.
No, so he was wearing like a shirt, like like a button-up shirt, but it was like open at the
But it was
front.
like buttoned
It was like
down.
buttoned, so you could see like his chest furs. But
Because he was a hairy
yeah,
dude from what I
yeah.
remember.
He's out. He's like dun, dun, dancing. And he's dancing with this other nurse, and she's shit faced, like she's gone, right? And all of a sudden, they like tumble on the floor. There's like 4 people like laying on the floor because they just from being drunk, they like bumped into each other. Then they all like fell. I'm like watching like these 2 physicians and these 2 nurses are like rolling around on the floor. I'm like, someone help her up because like I could fully see
Oh,
like
that
up
is
her
so
dress.
wrong.
Like this is not like like someone please help her. And they're laughing, they're having a good old time. Now I've sobered up, right? Like I just fully like, you know how like sometimes like you're drinking and then you see some crazy shit go down. I just like sobered right up. I was like, I'm okay, I'm fine. I have to help people. So after I saw them like all tumble to the floor, I was like, oh my god. And then it just went from there to just like 110%. So like they started putting on like, how it's not a slow jam, but it's like music that's kind of like slower, but like there's like fast parts.
So you can kind of grind to it.
Yes, you know exactly where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going with this. Yep. Yep. So they somehow recovered themselves from the floor and they were able to get up and start grinding together.
This one nurse, and she started dancing with this doctor. Is he married? Yes, he is. Is she seeing someone? I don't know, but I know he's married with kids, and they put down one piece of dancing out there, Sarah. It was sex on the dance floor.
Oh my god. So you weren't turning away from disgust. You were like, I can't stop watching this train wreck.
This is some crayness, right? After I saw the tumble and I saw the grinding, I was like, I need to leave. Like, I don't want to be a part of whatever else might go down here tonight. You know, this is where I think we can maybe unpack some of this too. Like, you have to go to work with this person again, right? Like, I know he had a family, but like there were anyways, it was just kind of.
Mm-mm.
And I just said, I said to one of the nurses, I was like, I need to go home. Like, I can't handle this. This is well beyond my scope of practice. So I was just like, I'm glad you guys are having fun, having a good time, but I like, because I'm in this leadership role, I just don't
You
want
don't
to
want to
see
know. It's like,
anything
don't
else.
ask, don't tell. You just don't want to know.
Don't ask, don't tell. I was just like, I don't want to be a part of a situation where I'm compromised, right? So I was like, no.
But it's almost like in that case, it's like you can't unsee what you've seen, right? And it kind of changes your perception of these people.
Well, I had left, and then I started getting, like, I got home and I had messaged one of the nurses. I was like, I'm home safe, blah blah. And then I started getting other pictures, and I was just like, oh my, like, it got worse. So like, the fact that I know like what I saw, and then I was getting extra pictures, that's like too much for me. And I just feel like this is where that dynamic is really effed up, right? Like, I mean, you got to work with these people. Um, Again, we can't forget, like, as much as we don't want to say that there's a hierarchy, there is a hierarchy, right? Like, there's
I mean, like, the physician is in yeah, he's in a position of power, and,
right.
like, if something I'm not saying something happened, but if something had happened, would that change the team dynamic, like, if and when they were working together
Well, the thing
again?
is, how could it not? Even let's say it was just dancing, right? Like, it just got to the point, they got a little very physical, but it was just dancing. I could never like look at that person the same way. And how do you like go back to work, and like, that's the interaction that you had. I was just like, okay, I was like, you know what? Don't tell me anything more. But like, I think it's an important thing to talk about. Like, I think people should go out and have fun. That's fine, right? And I think what people do as adults, that's your business. But I think that if you are working in a place where there's that hierarchy, like, I mean, you can't do that. Like, that's not okay. I draw the line there. I kind of like, nah, man.
I know, I think they discourage office inter-office relationships for that reason, right? Because it changes the dynamic, it makes things awkward. I mean, it's really just not necessary.
Well, it's also that position of power, right? Like, the person has some authority over you. It's a conflict of interest, really. Like, I mean, two consulting adults, they want to go, they want to whatever, but I think when it comes to those type of situations, like, I think you're playing with fire, you're playing a dangerous game. So,
I think it kind of goes both ways, right? Like, so say something happened between this nurse and this doctor. He could very well hold this against her to be like, you need to do everything I say or else, or I'm going to tell. Or it could be like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to you because I can do whatever I want. And we had this thing that happened and like, whatever.
but
But
it just f's up the dynamic on the
it
floor
does.
too,
It
because it's
does.
just like, that doctor, maybe now they go out for lunch together, or why is that nurse always like, it just messes things up. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be cordial and respectful, but again, it puts him in a really bad position. I mean, again, none of my business. I was just an observer, but I was just like, I need to go. I don't want to know anything else. Again, like, there's got to be some boundaries. Like, I mean,
I just have this mental picture of a doctor I used to work with, and when I worked with him he was probably in his 70s, and I heard stories about him in his younger days where he had affairs with multiple nurses, but this was in his younger days, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not connecting the dots. I'm sure back then he looked and acted a lot different, but I'm just not seeing it, like with his arthritic knees and his like baldness and liver spots. But you know what? People just see what they see and they see what they want.
Well, then there's that whole thing of power, right? Like maybe there's that dynamic. It's like, flirt with the chief or do this or that. Like it's really effed up. And I think like we're like have fun. Yes, go out, have a good time. Just just don't do that. Just please don't do that.
Just don't do anything that you might regret.
Well, like you said, it goes both ways, right? Like, I mean, what if she took pictures?
I don't know.
Don't make a fool of yourself. just just know when to quit.
I'm just wondering if you ever heard back from this particular nurse and if she regretted what had happened or if you know anything about that.
No, like I saw her, she was casual, so she didn't work very frequently. But I mean, that's why I left at 9:30 because I just didn't want to know anything else.
And if I recall correctly, it was on a weekday, so you still had to work the next day.
Well, not all of them. Like, I mean, I guess that's why some of them booked hotel rooms, right? But yeah, that was my Christmas party story. And I think, I just think just there was just general silliness around the holidays. Like I remember people were opening their gifts like on over the holidays. They're like, "Oh, I brought my gift in, so I'm just going to open it." And going on, what was it? It was a hoverboard. And I was watching
What?
these nurses and they're like, "Amy, you got to give this a try." And I was like, "Hell no." And like it was dead. It was quiet. There were no patients. And they're going up and down the hallway. It's the hoverboard, it's like it uses balance and it kind of has wheels.
So it's not like the Segway, right? Like it's smaller wheels.
It's small wheels. Yeah. It's just like you're gonna have to
All
Google
right,
it
I'm gonna
now.
Google this right now.
But essentially they like open this gift and they're like going down the hall and this thing moves really fast. And like a couple of them fell. I heard them like something crash. I think one of them fell into the crash cart and they're laughing and stuff. And I'm like, this is WSIB all over. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. And they're like, "Oh, this is so much fun." And then they did like racing down the hall with wheelchairs. I'm just like, whatever. Like, I mean, I can't, I'm not going to get into it. Like, do you're stuck here, everyone else is opening gifts. If you want to have hallway races down to see who can go faster on a wheelchair, by all means. I was like, whatever.
Okay, I could totally see someone getting hurt on, like, let's say Knights doing this, but it's to their own wrongdoing.
Well, remember, like none of them knew how to use it. None of them knew how to use it. They're just all like taking turns, falling off. I'm like, what if one of you guys get hurt? They're like, no one's gonna get hurt. I'm like, oh my god, I can't. Oh dear. It was good fun. I mean, I enjoyed my team. So,
But like, I guess just to go back to some more sort of boring Christmas holiday things, like there's always the potluck, right? There's a potluck on days, there's a potluck on nights. Usually the hospital will give you a voucher if you work on holidays. It's like $10 to the cafeteria, something like that. Just to thank you for your time.
I'm assuming that potlucks are like a no-go.
Really?
Like, I remember it was the best. Like on nights we would just rip out they'd pull out like the crock pot that was cooking like the nachos dip, the like buffalo wing dip, and like all sorts of stuff. It was just like it was a bomb, right? But now it's just COVID's kind of thrown a wrench into all of that. Yes, there won't be any corporate large parties this year, but I mean, find different ways to enjoy the holidays if you can. So, and relive those fun and cringeworthy moments that you enjoyed years previous.